I want to tell you the most paralyzing lie in personal finance. It is not a complicated lie, it is not a sophisticated one, and it is not told by villains. It is told casually every day by well-meaning people in conversations, at kitchen tables, and in comment sections, and in the offices of financial advisors who charge a minimum fee that proves the point they are accidentally making. The lie is this: you need a significant amount of money before you can seriously begin investing. I have heard it phrased 100 different ways. Wait until you have at least $10,000, then start. You cannot build real wealth from small amounts. It is not worth the effort. Investing is really for people who already have money to put to work. Every version of this statement has the same effect on the person who hears it. It gives them permission to wait. And waiting, as I explained in my previous video, is the single most expensive financial decision a person makes across the course of their lifetime. Today, I'm going to answer the question that is quietly holding back more people from building wealth than any other single question in personal finance. How much money do you actually need to start investing? And my answer is going to be simpler and more confronting than you expect. Let me start with the mathematics. Nobody shows you. I want to show you a calculation that I wish every young person on earth could see before they make any decision about when to begin. Imagine two people. The first person starts investing $100 per month at age 25. They do this consistently for 40 years and they earn the average long-term market return of approximately 8% per year. The second person waits until they have what they consider a serious amount to invest. They begin at age 35 with $1,000 as a starting amount, and they invest $300 per month for 30 years, earning the same 8% return. The second person invested dramatically more money per month and started with a much larger initial amount. By the time both people are 65, which person has more money? The first person, not by a small margin, by an amount that would shock most people who have not done this calculation. The first person who invested the small amount early ends up with significantly more money than the second person who waited for the right amount to invest. The reason is one of the most important concepts in all of finance, and it is one I have been teaching since the 1930s. It is called compound interest, and Albert Einstein reportedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. I would not go that far, but I understand the sentiment compound interest means that your returns earn returns in year one. You earn interest on your original investment in year two. You earn interest on your original investment plus the interest you earned in year one. In year three, you earn interest on all of that, plus the year two interest, and so on. For every year that follows in the early years, this effect is almost invisible. $100 growing at 8% earns $8 in the first year. That is not exciting, but by year 20, that same $100 has grown to over $400, and the interest it earns that year is over $30, which is more than the interest earned on the original amount in the first 3 years combined by year 30. The original $100 has become over $1,000 by year 40. It has become over $2,000. The growth is not linear, it is exponential, and the exponential curve bends sharply upward in the later years. But here is the critical truth about exponential curves. They only produce their dramatic results if you give them time. And time is the one input that cannot be purchased at any price once it has passed. Every year you wait to start is a year of compounding that never happens. Not a year that gets added to the end, but a year that is permanently removed from the middle of your curve, the most powerful years. The years when early small investments were compounding toward their largest contributions. The person who starts with $100 today is not starting small. They are starting the clock. The invention that changed everything about getting started when I was beginning my career in the 1920s, investing genuinely did require a meaningful amount of money. Brokerage commissions were significant as a percentage of small transactions. The minimum investment amounts for most instruments were substantial, and the practical mechanics of investing small amounts regularly were genuinely difficult for the ordinary person. That world no longer exists. The technology available to an investor in 2026 has eliminated virtually every practical barrier that once made small amount investing genuinely impractical. Fractional shares mean that you can buy a small piece of any company, no matter how high its share price, without needing to purchase a full share. If a share costs $500, you can buy $10 worth of it, own 2% of one share, and still participate in every dollar of return that share produces. Commission-free trading has eliminated the transaction cost that once made small regular investments economically irrational. If you are investing $50 per month, a $5 commission represented 10% of your investment before the market moved at all that cost, made small, regular investing genuinely inefficient today. That friction is essentially gone. Automatic investment features mean that you can set up a recurring contribution that happens on a fixed schedule without requiring any decision or action from you each time the money moves from your account to your investment automatically on the date you specify. And this automation is more valuable than almost any investment insight because it removes the human decision from the process, and human decisions made around money are frequently bad ones. Index funds with no minimum investment requirement mean that for $0 of minimum commitment, you can own a small piece of hundreds of companies simultaneously with all the diversification benefits that once required a portfolio of tens of thousands of dollars to achieve. The practical barriers to starting small are gone. What remains is only the psychological barrier, the feeling that a small amount is somehow not serious enough to bother with. That feeling is one of the most expensive feelings in personal finance. What $25 per month actually becomes. I want to make this concrete because abstractions about compound interest do not move people the way specific numbers do. If you are 25 years old and you invest $25 per month into a broadly diversified index fund, earning the historical average market return, you will have accumulated a genuinely meaningful sum by the time you reach 65. $25 per month is less than most people spend on coffee and convenience purchases in a week. It is not a sacrifice, it is a reallocation. Now, if you increase that to $50 per month, the outcome grows substantially. And $50 per month is an amount that the vast majority of people reading this video could find somewhere in their monthly spending if they were honest about where their money was actually going. And if you can reach $100 per month, which is approximately $3.30 per day, the long-term outcome becomes genuinely life-changing. I am not going to give you specific numbers because markets vary and the future is uncertain. And anyone who gives you a precise projection 40 years into the future is either guessing or selling you something. What I will tell you is this. The difference between $0 invested and $25 invested per month is not a difference of $25 per month over 40 years. It is the difference between nothing and something significant. And the difference between starting today and starting in 3 years is not a difference of 3 years. It is the difference between having those 3 years of compounding inside your curve or permanently outside it. Small is not insignificant. Small and consistent and early is one of the most powerful financial strategies available to any human being on earth. The amount that actually matters is not the starting amount. Here is the insight that I want you to carry with you. After this video ends, the question of how much you need to start is actually the wrong question. It is the question that keeps people focused on a threshold they need to cross before the real thing begins. The right question is this: what is the amount that I can invest consistently every single month without fail, regardless of what the market is doing, regardless of what is happening in my life, and regardless of how I feel about it on any given day? That number is your real starting amount. And here is how you find it. Honestly, Look at your last 3 months of bank statements. Do not estimate. Do not approximate. Actually look at where the money went. Find the amount that disappeared each month without producing anything lasting for your financial life. The subscriptions you do not use, the convenience spending that was driven by habit, not need the small purchases that accumulated into a number that surprises you when you actually see it somewhere in that number. Is your investment amount? It does not need to be dramatic. If it is $40 per month, then $40 per month is your starting point. If it is $20 per month, then $20 per month is your starting point. There is no amount too small to begin with, and there is no amount too small to matter when you give it enough time. What you are looking for is not a large amount. You are looking for a consistent amount and a commitment to never stop investing it. The one amount that is genuinely too small. I want to be honest with you about one thing because I believe honesty serves you better than false encouragement. There is an amount that is genuinely too small, and that amount is 0 invested consistently over 40 years produces 0. And right now, there are millions of people whose effective monthly investment is functionally 0, not because they cannot find any amount to invest, but because they are waiting to find the right amount. The person waiting to save $5,000 before they open an investment account while spending money each month in ways that do not build wealth is making a choice. They may not feel like they are making a choice. They may feel like they are simply waiting for circumstances to be right, but they are choosing to give the most powerful years of their compounding curve to everything except compounding. There is a version of this trap that is even more insidious. The person who has a small amount to invest but convinces themselves it is too small to make a difference, and so continues to delay. I watched this pattern in my students at Columbia. I have watched it in investors throughout my career, and the cost of it measured in the actual outcomes of actual human lives is genuinely heartbreaking because the small amount they thought was not worth starting with would have become something extraordinary if they had simply begun the psychological truth about starting small. There is something else that happens when you start investing that has nothing to do with the money. It changes how you think. The person who has money in the market and watches it grow even slowly begins to develop a relationship with long-term thinking that does not exist for the person who has not yet started. They begin to understand viscerally, not just intellectually, what compound interest feels like. They begin to notice when a market drop represents a sale rather than a loss. Because they have skin in the game and they have watched what recoveries look like, they begin to read differently. They begin to pay attention to the financial health of businesses they interact with. They begin to develop the habits of mind that over years and decades turn an ordinary person into a genuinely sophisticated investor. You cannot develop these habits without starting, and you do not need a large amount to start developing them. The $25 per month investor who begins at 25 and pays close attention to what is happening with their money for 40 years becomes an intelligent investor. The person who waits until they have the serious amount and begins at 35 without having spent a decade developing the habits of mind that investing produces starts at a permanent disadvantage. That the larger starting amount does not fully compensate for starting small is not just financially valuable, it is educationally irreplaceable. What to do with the amount you have right now? Let me be direct and practical, because I believe that is more valuable than further philosophy. If you have $100 right now, open a brokerage account today and invest it in a broadly diversified, low-cost index fund. Then set up an automatic monthly investment for whatever amount you honestly found in your bank statements, not tomorrow, today. If you have $50, do exactly the same thing with $50. If you have $20, do exactly the same thing with $20. If you have $10, do exactly the same thing with $10. The specific amount is less important than the specific action. You are not trying to become wealthy from this first deposit. You are trying to do 3 things simultaneously. You are starting the compounding clock which is the most valuable thing you can do. Regardless of amount, you are building the habit of consistent investment, which will serve you for the rest of your financial life, regardless of how your income changes, and you are crossing the psychological threshold from being a person who is going to invest to being a person who invests. And that threshold matters enormously to the decisions you make about money from this day forward. As your income grows, your investment amount should grow with it. The most natural and effective rule I know is this: every time your income increases, whether from a raise, a promotion, a new job, or any other source, commit to investing 50% of that increase before you adjust your lifestyle to absorb it. If your monthly take-home pay increases by $200, invest 100 of those $200 immediately and permanently into your monthly contribution before you ever experience what it feels like to have that extra $200 available to spend. This is how small starting amounts become serious portfolios. Not by waiting for the right moment, but by systematically growing the contribution every time life creates the opportunity to do so. The three things nobody tells you about starting small. Let me end the instructional portion of this video with three things that the financial industry has very little incentive to tell you, because none of them generate fees or attention or trading activity. The first thing is that the brokerage account you open matters less than you think. As long as you choose a reputable provider that offers low-cost index funds and commission-free trading, the specific platform is far less important than the habit of consistent investment you build on top of it. Do not spend 3 months researching the perfect brokerage account. Spend 30 minutes choosing a reputable one and use the other 2 months and 29 days to start investing. The second thing is that you do not need to understand everything before you start. You need to understand two things. You are buying a small piece of real businesses, and you are doing it consistently regardless of short-term price movements. That is genuinely sufficient understanding to begin. Everything else can be learned while you are already invested, and learning while invested is dramatically more effective than learning in the abstract. The third thing is that the investor who starts with $100 per month and never increases it will almost certainly end up wealthier than the investor who waits 5 years to start with $500 per month, because those 5 years of compounding in the middle of the curve are worth more than the additional $400 per month that the second investor contributes. Early beats large almost every time, and early and consistent beats everything. Your assignment here is exactly what I want you to do. Before this video ends, open your banking application right now and look at your last 3 months of spending. Find one recurring expense that produces no lasting financial value and that you would not miss if it disappeared. Calculate how much that expense costs you per month. Then, open a brokerage account today if you do not already have one, and set up an automatic monthly investment for that exact amount into a broadly diversified, low-cost index fund. Do not wait until next month. Do not wait until the market settles. Do not wait until you have a larger amount. Invest that amount today and schedule the automatic monthly contribution. To begin immediately, you have just made the single most important financial decision of your decade. Not because of the amount, because of the beginning, the bottom line. You do not need a large amount to start investing. You need any amount that you can commit to investing consistently every single month without fail. The mathematics of compounding reward time and consistency more generously than they reward size. The practical barriers that once made small amount investing inefficient have been eliminated by the technology available to any investor in 2026. The most expensive financial mistake most people make is not investing badly. It is not investing at all because they were waiting for enough money to invest properly. Enough money to invest properly is whatever amount you can honestly commit to today. Find that amount, start today, and then never stop. That is how the intelligent investor thinks. Thank you.